Hello, hello. Today I am going to share some insights from this book, Chasing Daylight: How My Forthcoming Death Transformed My Life by Eugene O'Kelly. My name is Marita. I'm with Harmonic Wholeness, and I am a voracious reader. And I thought it would be really great for me to share some of the books that I read. I read some really um, like the books that are really trending, but then I find some nuggets that, wow. I happened to find this book at a used book sale, and it's like brand new. Um, I tend to really enjoy when something is a true story. So I chose some nuggets of wisdom from his book to share with you. The story is essentially uh, Gene. Gene was a 53-year-old man who was diagnosed with very late stage brain cancer, and he was given 3 to 6 months to live. And I can't imagine being in that situation and wanting to write a book and wanting to do the things that he did. But he took what I call conscious dying to like a next level. And this was many years ago. This book was written in '06, so a long while ago. And conscious dying isn't even really talked about. I mean, I think we should be talking about it, but we're not even talking about it. So let me read a few nuggets from the book. After my diagnosis, I still believed. He was talking about soul versus this and that. But I also discovered depths to which a business person rarely goes, and learned how worthwhile it was to sit there, and sooner rather than later, because it may bring one greater success as a business person and as a human being. He was a CEO, a real type A kind of business guy in a top firm in the country, in the United States. You can tell what I went through. You can call what I went through a spiritual journey, a journey of the soul, a journey that allowed me to experience what was there all along, but had been hidden thanks to the distractions of the world. We're all distracted by our life, and it's only when we're faced with something as drastic as this that we take inventory of our life, and that's what he was forced to do. The next little nugget I have here is: when I aimed to be fully conscious and in the moment, I often had trouble keeping my mind from wandering to the future or the past. I got angry. Frequently, I cried, and occasionally I got obsessed. I experienced repeated failure at what I was trying to do, but not once did I regret that I had exercised control over my life, the final and most precious inches of my life, for the last real time I was able to. So what he was trying to do, and actually he didn't try, what he did was he looked at his life, and he created like little circles, like this little tight circle. These are my people, like my family and my children and the really close people. And then the next circle and the next, he made like 5 circles, and what he called unwinding. He wanted to unwind with his people and tell them what they meant to him and create what he called a perfect moment experience so that it was memorable for him. He was being, quote, selfish, but he really wanted that. He needed that closure. And what a gift to be able to do that. I just have I didn't want the book to end because, of course, it ended when he died, which was really, it was coming, right? It was sad. The next nugget I have: when things didn't go the way those of us there wanted, I watched people around me grow frustrated. I tried not to let it happen to me. I couldn't change what was happening, and neither could they. But they were having a far worse time of it by not accepting. There's the key word. As I watched others get upset, I saw myself in my past life. So as he witnessed how people were um, not accepting the fact that he was dying, that's how he was before this whole thing happened. It was at the clinic that I really began to understand acceptance. He went to radiation for, I forget, many days in a row for quite some time. To accept acceptance, if you will, having entered the final phase of my life, what choice did I have but to accept? Apparently, I wasn't too old to learn something new. You can't control everything, I told myself, as hard as it was to hear myself, a type A personality, say those words. I wouldn't allow mishaps and bad luck, and especially a defeating attitude, to throw me off my goals. One, oops, my bad. He learned to let go. He learned to accept. So I will say that as it became, there was a time during, it took me a while to read because um, if you've experienced death of a close family member or someone near and dear to you and watched them cross over, uh, you know, you've been there. You know what's coming. You know it viscerally. And there was a time where I had to just set it aside for literally a week or so and let it integrate before I could pick it up. And then I found it very compelling, and I just couldn't put it down. And and then there was oh, here I see another. I will read this to you. It's a longer passage, but I haven't marked here. I was reminded of a moment in college in 1970, in the midst of the Vietnam War. As an accounting major and straight-laced student at Penn State, I'd, I'd been appointed treasurer of the student body. I was responsible for dispersing funds to various student organizations. The left wing Students for Democratic Society ran a slate of candidates for office, and their leader was elected student body president. In his new position, his stated objective was to mount various anti-war activities, and to do that, he sought funding from the student treasury. Though he'd been legitimately elected to office, it was against the rules to allocate funds provided by the government, Penn State being a state school, for political purposes, such as sponsoring radical speakers to come to campus. On the other hand, he was the elected leader, and spending money on items like printing and microphones, that was within his rights. I told him he could have the money for that, but he would have to raise funds if he wanted to spend it, say, on bringing the radical speakers to the campus. One Saturday night, he raised $10,000 by screening the counterculture classic, Reefer Madness, to a sold-out crowd of Stone students. I carried shopping bags of cash from the night's take back to my fraternity house, and Monday morning I deposited the funds in the bank and gave him the funds. What in the world could this memory possibly have to do with the other side? Was this transition? Was this my transition? It struck me that this story exemplified how you can hold on to who you are while also modifying your thinking. Whew. It was about staying rooted while also growing. It was about having one foot planted on firm, familiar ground while another toed new, unfamiliar ground. It was about how, if I was going to transition to a different world, I needed to transition myself. This dude, this was his spiritual awakening. It was just a beautiful, like, you, as you read it, you just like awaken with him. This was, that last passage was emotional intelligence. I get to do this and I have to be this. Like, wow. I hope you'll pick up a copy. You can tell I really, really liked this book. And my goal is to really share with you books that I'm reading, from business classics to something as innocuous, like, where did this come from? And why don't people know about this? So it's Marita Harmonic Wholeness. Subscribe so that you can get the next one when I go live again, and get the next book that I'm going to share with you. All right, we'll see you next time. I'm so glad that you listened to this book bite on this book.